Yeah, absolutely. We at the Social Man, we certainly teach the idea of qualification. And a big reason why is that everyone's different, and just because a woman may not be my perfect life mate, just because me and a woman might not be perfectly suited and attracted to each other, doesn't mean that she's not an equally worthy human being as me. So I still have to screen for someone that's going to be ideal life mate, but that doesn't mean there's any value discrepancy between us. I still respect her and think she's amazing. Maybe not perfect for me. Maybe she's screwed up and's got a lot of her own issues to deal with, so I don't want to be around her as much right now. But I'm no better or no worse than her.
You mentioned earlier that you have tools to kind of get you back into your game when you're feeling not so confident.
Yeah.
So my question is, what are a couple of those tools? And then also, when you are on your game, what tools or what do you do to maintain that momentum or continue to step it up in that space
good question.
too?
Very good question. So I already gave a couple of my tools just for getting myself back on. Like everywhere I go, every single day, I'm consciously trying to make as much eye contact as possible. Why? Eye contact is your most powerful tool for socializing and anything in regards to sexuality. It's the end-all, be-all, the alpha and omega. If you're not making eye contact, nothing's ever going to happen. If you are having strong eye contact that lingers a couple extra seconds and makes you feel funny in your stomach, that's all you need. You don't need anything else after that. That's all the sexual escalation that needs to happen right there in that moment. You can always get closer later, but eye contact. So, and it's not just people say eye contact like you're just like, you know, look at that thing, look at their eyes, like it's a blank object, like there's one way to do it. When in fact, like actually looking at someone in the eyes, there's different ways you can do it. I could look you in the eyes, but I also have my periphery open, or I can focus on your eyes so that everything just kind of blends into a background blur and I can see you even more crystal clearly. Can you feel the difference between when I'm doing this versus when I'm doing this, right? She can feel that. One feels like we're friendly and we're talking. One feels like, I feel funny, and what's this guy talking about, right? If you are just not spellbound by the amazing sexual power that you can wield with your eyes, then you need to start working on your eye contact more. Then you're not doing it enough. I can promise you that. And if you're not making enough eye contact, why would you even bother working on anything else? It's like, I want to work on my high jumping abilities, but I can't walk. It's ridiculous. Why are you letting by the big things that actually make the biggest difference go, but you're worried about what to say if she says one particular thing in the universe? So that's the one big thing. I'm consciously working on my eye contact. And I will continue to do so until I can look across the room, make eye contact with a girl, and lure her towards me without saying a word. Then I'll stop working on my eye contact. Getting there. So second thing, dropping hooks everywhere. Getting over that shyness, pushing myself. If I see that girl, will I still feel a little nervousness in me, a little excitement? Yeah. It's going to be a hell of a lot easier to just jump and not think about it if I've been talking to everybody else all day. Hell of a lot easier. Other than that, it depends. I mean, this is where coaching comes in. This is where my own personal self-evaluation comes in after that. I have a tendency of, when I get nervous, believe it or not, I have a tendency of talking too much. Crazy, I know, as it sounds. And so, when I would be off my game, after a breakup, I would be talking too much. Why? I thought that I had to say something to win this girl over and impress her. So what's the coaching that I give myself, and what do I have to force myself to do now? The opposite. Shut the fuck up. And one thing I usually give guys is I say if they want to change something about themselves, if they want to improve something, whatever it is, if a guy is holding himself back because he's too conscious, that wasn't my problem. I have to force him to start getting more aggressive, start getting closer to her, start being more forward. Whatever that is, whatever you want to correct, whatever you need to shift, I always say go as far over the line as possible. Go to the exact opposite extreme. Because usually, if you're trying to correct the problem and there's some anxiety attached because of the situation you're in, you can go as far over that line as you think you are, and you're not even close to the line. I always say go as far over until you're getting slapped, till you're positive that, okay, I need to start pulling it back, then dial yourself back a couple clicks. If you're just inching forward, you're never going to find out where the actual limit is, where you should be hitting. You're just going to be firing in the darkness. So, in terms of me shutting up, I had to go to the other extreme. I had to do way less talking than I normally would do in an interaction when things are just going. And then when I'm good, when I'm good, I'm already having enough experiences to keep up my practice, so I don't really need to work on it or focus on it. I have enough women in my life that these things are happening that I don't have to think about it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Good question.
In your experience, what is the most critical factor in a guy's psychology to get him over the belief that there's this great chasm between having a girl up here on a pedestal and he's down here and has to somehow raise himself to her level?
Good question. There's something that I teach, but this isn't my concept by any way, shape, or form, but I use an acronym called TAR. And what TAR stands for is thoughts, actions, reactions. Essentially saying in some situations you have thoughts that bolt into your head. If you had really bad experiences with girls when you were younger and you get put in a situation with a girl you value, those thoughts probably aren't going to be too positive. Normally, you could be thinking normally, but all of a sudden in that situation you start thinking crazy. You start going haywire. Your brain takes over. Okay? Your actions then are a reflection of those thoughts. And if your thoughts suck, those actions probably aren't going to be too good either. They're probably going to be, your eye contact's going to be jumping all over even though you know to make eye contact. You're going to be talking too much even though you know you want to, etc. And then reactions, the R. What feedback do you get from the outside world? What are the girls saying back to you? So you have these thoughts, and what usually happens is, this is how self-fulfilling prophecies form. I suck with girls. Your actions look like a guy who sucks with girls. Her reactions say, man, you suck with girls. Why? Because of the action that you're giving out right there, right? And then what does that reaction do? It goes back and informs those thoughts. See, I told you, you were right. You get more experiences that just reinforce those negative thoughts. So there's a couple ways you can deal with this, to answer your question. One thing, obviously, is the whole inner game side, the thoughts. If I can just, maybe if I do enough self-affirmations, or maybe if I just, if I hammer home, hang out with the right people that tell me the right things over and over again, I hear it enough, it'll change those beliefs. Do I believe in that? Absolutely. To a certain extent, over a long period of time. What we essentially do in our coaching programs is, we're hammering home different beliefs the entire time to try to affect that T. But what we're really doing is we're getting him to change that A. We're getting him, even though he wants to lock up into his shell of looking down and talking and mumbling and getting into his cage and not physically and inciting emotion out of the woman, we get him to, even though it's hard and even though he's nervous, to, once again, overreach those lines in whichever way we want to push them, change those actions. And sometimes it's hard as hell. Sometimes it's the simplest action. It's like jumping up and down, but when you're trying to do it on the edge of a building and you're afraid of heights, it's impossible. The simplest action in those moments can be the hardest thing. But we then get him to push to do those actions eventually. He starts getting different reactions from the outside world, and I think that's where it really happens. You start reprogramming those memories. You start replacing them with those different positive memories. And in conjunction with the actions you're taking, in conjunction with the belief work that we're doing, then those new memories come back and they go back and reaffirm those thoughts. You know what? Maybe it's not me that girls don't like. Maybe, it was just happened to be that girl in that one situation. And actually, with these other responses, I find out that quite a number of other girls actually do respond positively to me. Isn't that crazy? Our actions we start feeling bolder, dropping hooks more and more, escalating sooner, keeping your mouth quiet, letting that awkward silence fill while you smile, and she's like, oh, so anyway. And then you really smile because you know what just happened there. That's my favorite moment in a conversation, is when awkward silence is filled by her sweet voice. Because that's when I know it's on. Answer the question? Cool. Sure. One more? Or, yeah.
All right.
Oh, perfect.
All right, so your theme is dropping hooks.
Yeah.
Okay, how...
Taking action / dropping hooks.
Oh, yeah. So how exactly would you define dropping a hook?
Yeah. A hook is anything you do to get a girl's attention. So once again, if I look her in the eyes with that focused look, I give her a little smile if I'm being friendly, or little slight cocky upturn of my lip if I'm being sexual in a bar or alcohol-fueled environment, that's a hook. If a girl's walking by, I could thrust my crotch into her and say, oh, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry, it's really tight in here, excuse me. Did she already look at me and have to acknowledge me? That's a hook. Can I say, hey, those are some badass shoes right there? Did I just get her attention and force her to acknowledge me? And she'll either acknowledge me positively or she'll acknowledge me negatively. And each time has more to do with her and her life than anything I could possibly do or say in that moment.
So a hook is something that she has to respond to, something that grabs her attention.
Something that gets her attention. If she's
So-
walking by and she doesn't acknowledge your presence whatsoever, you did not drop a hook.
Oh,